If one is looking for the ultimate lifestyle camera, then this is probably one that comes to mind, or the one that you go looking for, because it's reasonably priced and it's also very good in terms of the image quality, the color reproduction, the size, the compactness, and just all around the build quality and what it's capable of. On the left here, we have the Fuji X100V, which is the 5, and then we have the new X100VI, which is the 6. And they are very similar in many ways. The new one is slightly heavier. I think it's around 45 grams heavier, but you don't really feel it when you're taking it out and about with you. It just feels basically more or less the same. To the naked eye, it looks very similar as well, with subtle changes here and there. The one on the left is actually mine, and the one on the right, the new one, is a loan device from Fujifilm. So do bear that in mind when you see some scratches here and there, because this has been around. It's been reviewed by a few people already, which is pretty cool. On the front, you start to notice some differences. So, for example, the lens area is still pretty much the same with the writing on there. So we have that Fujinon spherical lens still written on there, and the rest of the writing and all that kind of stuff. It's still the same 23mm lens, so that's nothing's changed over there. We still have this ring for aperture, so you can change the way the aperture would react to what you're shooting. You can still change that. It's still the same way right on the lens ring over there. And then what you notice is on the older one, it's kind of protruding on what's on the outside compared to the new one. That's kind of just there. But you can also unscrew. There's a ring layer here that you can, if I just unscrew that. So you can take that off. So that way you can add stuff like attachments or anything else, accessories. You can add that onto the camera if you want to. One thing I love about the Fuji X100V before is being able to add some accessories, and thankfully you still be able to use those accessories with your new 6 as well. For example, on top of mine, I've got this thumb rest right at the top there. So that thumb rest can be taken out and put onto the new one if I want to do so, because it just fits into the hot shoe mount, so I'm good to go. Back to the front to see what else is new or different. You can notice that this little red dot on the X100V is slightly different now. It's no longer there, but on the new one, it's got this nice groove on there as well. I don't know if you guys will be able to see on camera, but yeah, it's got this nice groove on there, which I'll try and zoom in so you can see it as well. And this button here is that you can press to change different things for the actual ring on top of here. So you have this ring that can be used for focusing, so manual focus, or you can set it to do different things as well. The flash is pretty much the same, apart from that AF illuminator line. Lights over there, that's kind of like different as well. Still kind of the same size, but in terms of the actual outside area, but internal, the light in the actual thing inside it, that's bigger on the new 6. The viewfinder area is still pretty much the same. I can't, to my naked eyes, I can't really notice any difference there at all. So that looks like it remains the same. If we flip it over to the side, we see that it's still the same as well. The shape's the same. The scroll wheel there is the same for changing that viewfinder settings for focus in case you wear glasses. And then you still got the switch as well for focusing mode. So you have manual, continuous, and single focus. And then you still got the little indentation there on there to flip the LCD display on the back, so you can easily just flip that out again. We look over on the bottom of the camera. So here again, you can actually see better when I was talking about the ring area on the actual lens. So you can see it better there. So you can see that one protrudes and that one doesn't. But yeah, so we have the tripod mount there that's moved forwards on the new camera. And also this, what I believe is a speaker or just heat dissipation, that's moved as well. Don't shoot me on that one. But yeah, so that's moved as well on the new one. And then the battery situation is still the same with where the memory card goes. If I just open this up. So memory card opening still the same, battery still pretty much the same, although they say the battery life will last a bit longer, so you get more shots out of the new one compared to the old one, thanks to the new processor in there. So yeah, you can use the same battery, so you have the old one, you can swap batteries around and still enjoy your battery situation there. Over to the other side, the ports still remain the same. You still get the HDMI port, USB-C for charging and data transfer, and your 3.5mm headphone jack still there as well. So nothing's changed in that area. We just close that up. Over on the back, on the LCD area on the back, again, things look very similar here with subtle changes that you might notice straight away. So for example, if we look on that display back button there, you now have that little Bluetooth logo next to it. Play still there, menu still there, the little joystick thing still there, the toggle still there. That scroll wheel there is still there as well with the little LED lights still there. The Q button still there as well. They've moved the drive select button just a bit more to the right side, so it's easy to reach with your thumb when you're using it. So that's moved ever so slightly. Besides that, I think it's pretty much the same over there. The major changes for me on the back is that LCD, so the way that it articulates. So now you can see on the new one, it moves a bit lower as well. So, and it moves a bit up as well in terms of the angle. So you can see that moves a bit further up compared to the older one. I don't know if that makes massive difference, but if that's something that you use all the time and you might find a use for that extra movement, then bravo, great. So that's the sort of changes that you get. Over at the top, things looks very similar as well, pretty much the same apart from the labeling. So for example, the V and the VI and that little symbol there's moved to where they were before. And then we look on the ISO, base ISO has changed as well. So on the new one, we can now do 125 compared to the old one, which goes to base ISO settings on here to 160. But besides that, pretty much the same. Ignore the red dot on mine because that's just a little modification that I did to it. But other than that, shutter button's still there. The buttons on there, the EV compensation dial is still pretty much the same. So that's pretty much it in terms of what's different in terms of the looks and design. Other differences are we now have 40 megapixel on the new one and also in-body image stabilization, which is fantastic. Helps with those shaky movements, especially in low light as well. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same in terms of the design and the way, the compact size and just the way they feel. And that's a good thing because most people that used to love the X100, or if you love the 100V for the size and compactness and stuff like that, you still get to have that without having to worry about, oh, they've added all these things, now I have to carry a bigger camera or heavier camera with me everywhere I go. So that's a really good thing. They've nailed that without alienating people that love this camera for exactly what it is. So we get the same lens, we get the same mechanical leaf shutter on there, and it's just a really good camera in general. And overall, I just love the look of it. It looks like an old school 35mm film camera, and everywhere you carry it, people still ask you that question, and they'll be wondering what it is, and it's just a really good camera all around. Even with that same fixed 23mm f2 APS-C sensor that's in there, it's still a really good camera. And some people even say it does the same thing as a 35mm f2 camera. So I've not used one of those, but this does a great job in terms of the color and just the output that you get from it. If there's anything on the design that I would love to have been changed or modified in some sort of way, is a dedicated flash button, because you still have to dig into the settings to then turn the flash on or off whenever you need to do so. When on a night out, sometimes you want to be able to just quickly switch that off, on and off whenever you need to do so. Now onto the software and what you actually get once you switch it on. So if we go through the menu, very easy to use, very easy to find things as well, which is really good. One thing I love about Fuji is that exactly. Also, the phone app has been updated as well, so it's a lot faster and a lot more responsive, even though when you're doing live view on the phone, it can still have a bit of a lag and stuff like that, but it's still much better for transfer though. So it's easy to transfer your image directly from here straight to your phone and start editing it or posting just as it is. So back to the settings here. So we have things like your image quality settings. So here we can change from raw, you got fine, normal, fine raw, normal raw, and raw as well. So I think once you start shooting raw and stuff, you're going to need a bigger storage because the files are big. But if you don't need to do any of those things, you can just shoot fine. And in my experience, when you shoot fine, it's still pretty much a really good quality JPEG that you can still edit it without losing image quality. And thanks to that 40 megapixel sensor on there as well, it means you can still retain a lot of the detail in your shots. You can also change your raw recording from uncompressed, lossless, compressed, and compressed as well. I usually leave that as uncompressed. And then one thing that's been updated as well, or added, is more film simulation. It's one of the things that everyone loves about the Fuji X100V, and they will love that about the 6 as well. You can now have extra film simulation, but you can also add a bit more as well. There's loads of website out there where you can find loads of different simulation and settings and stuff like that you can copy to achieve different sort of look and feel. But the whole point is to get that film look when you're taking your photos, and this does exactly that. So we've got extras on there as well. So as before, we get the standard on there. We got Vivid, you got Astia Soft, you got your classic Chrome. This is new, so the REALA Ace, that's new as well. So it says faithful color reproduction with hard tonality, suitable for various scenes. So this should be able to handle different scenes like portraits, your travel stuff, and whatever it is that you're shooting. You should be able to still be able to get really good quality using this. Then we have your Pro Negative High, Pro Negative Standard, you got Classic Negative, Nostalgic Negative, you got the Eternal Cinema, I think that's new as well. You got the Eternal Bleach Bypass, I think that's new as well. And then we get the A-Cross, we got the Monochrome and G Filter, and you got the Sepia as well. So you got loads of different film looks that you can select and get some really good shots. One thing I find is I normally have it on on standard for everyday use, so out and about, stuff like that, I put it on that. But some days when I want to get just like nice film look, then I use the classic chrome. But this gives you a lot of like contrasted look and sort of like muted sort of colors as well. So if that's not your feel or something that you like, you can change that as well. There's also extra settings you can add. You can add more colors in settings manually if you need to do so. Then we have things like grain effect. So color chrome effect, you can change that as well to be extra strong. So you can go to strong, weak, or turn it off completely. And then we got things like smooth skin effect. I believe this is new as well because I can find this option on my older one. So skin smoothing is not something I use generally on cameras, whether it's phone, cameras, whatever, but it's something that you can add, or I just normally edit that afterwards if I really need to. Then you got your white balance, you got dynamic range settings, and then your tone curve is where you can add a bit more for yourself. So once you've selected that film look, you can still go in there and just adjust the hue and saturation and so on, add more colors and sharpness if you need to do so. Then you got this clarity option as well. I believe this is also new because I can't see that on my older V. So that could be a new option there as well. But you can change that, add a bit of grain, add a bit of sharpness to it if you need to do so. And then the rest is just as it were. So you can change settings, autofocus settings there as well. Focusing is much better on here for some reason. I can notice slight differences in the way that it's just more responsive. You still get that 117 focus points on here and stuff like that. So, and then we go all the way to face detection settings, still there as well. So you still got your eye auto or eye left or right priority. You can still do that. But they've also added subject detection as well. So now we have options for animal, bird, automobile, motorcycle and bikes, airplane and train. So you have all these options here to help you make sure you get sharp imaging. So whether it's moving animals or whatever, I don't have any pets to try it on, but you can select all these things and just get the best shot possible. In video, we can now shoot 6.2K at 24 frames per second. So that's brilliant. So it means that if you're someone who's a content creator that want to shoot video as well, you can still do that on here and still get a really good video quality. I mainly focused on shooting photos on here because that's what I would use it for. If I need to shoot video, I can just get my phone out and do that. Or if I want something a bit more serious, I can then get my DSLR out and shoot something a bit more serious with some flat profile or log profile, whatever. I have my workflow for that. But on this, you can do that. You still got your 4K as well and some slow-mo options as well. And then the new image stabilization mode. So we can have in-body image stabilization. This says apply image stabilization by sensor shift. And then we have image stabilization and also the digital version as well. But this will add to the crop factor. So do bear that in mind, or you can turn it off completely if you're feeling confident. You got boost mode as well. This would be useful for when shooting something that's extra. So if you're going to be panning and tilting and tracking subjects, this might be something that you want to add or turn on for extra boost. One thing that's also changed on here is before on the older one, when you go into video or movie settings, you get extra options to change similar stuff that you can change in photo settings. But I don't know why they've taken that out completely. Maybe whatever you do in photo settings now apply to video as well in terms of those color settings and stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but that's something that they've changed in there as well. So overall, I haven't gone through the design and sort of the user settings and the interface. I think it's a brilliant camera. They've held on to their true values in terms of how compact it is. It's easy to use. It's got all the settings that you need to get the best film look if you want it or you don't want it. It's there. You can change all those settings to get the best look that you want out of the camera. And it performs really well. The processor is faster as well. So this way, updated faster, so this way it responds better. Even when as little as switching it on and off is very quick as well. You can have silent shutter mode or not have it depending on which shutter speed you're having and stuff like that. So it's just a versatile camera for everyday use, and I think this is probably the ultimate lifestyle camera for those who just want to grab something, chuck it in the bag and be on the go and shoot really good quality photos. But having said all that, I think we should move on to some sample shots as well that I took with it. Honestly, it's been such a delight to play around with this and just get some different looks here and there, and just depend on the weather as well. It can just handle lighting in different ways and the contrast, and it just looks fantastic. But yeah, let's talk about the photos. Looking at the photos, so the first one in front of me is a low light photo. So this is at night time, just to see the way that it handles lights and colors and stuff like that without doing too much to it, and even highlights and stuff. And one thing you notice straight away is everything that's right in front of me, immediately in front of me, looks very good in detail. There's no problems there at all. So I can even scroll, I can zoom in so you can see things clearly there. You can see that it's in focus as much as possible considering it's low lights. So the image stabilization is doing some really good job there to make sure that's fine. The only issue here is when you start then looking forward, right at the end of the photo, the highlights are like all over the place and it's pretty much blurry when you look further down the line. So it's kind of prioritized where I've set the focus to be, which is right in front of me. So my focus priority was literally to be on that ambulance there and then using that to light the rest of the image. But the color was more important to me as well because when you see the color of the ambulance, the colors look really good. Another low light image here is actually including a subject this time because I wanted to see how well he reproduces the skin tone and stuff like that. And as you can see here, this is in a dark lift. I know it doesn't give you the full sort of context of what's been shot in the area and stuff like that, but this was in a dark lift. Just using the light in the lift, which if anyone's been in a lift, they're not always well lit. And in this scenario, I think it's done a great job with no flash, nothing like that. You can see the skin tone looks great and I can still punch in. This wasn't even shot in RAW, this was JPEG. And you can see the quality there. It's done really well to keep his face in focus and then just getting that nice effect. It looks really good. Then I started to play with light as well in terms of light and shadow and the way the sun just hits this car steering in this scenario. You can see just how lovely it looks. It's just so eye-pleasing for me. I can punch in a bit more and even post that as it is like that if I wanted to on stories, for example. But everything's just sharp and in detail. The colors just looks really good with that warm tone on there as well. That earthy tone, I love it. It looks really good. Then I went into the New Forest here in the UK. I wanted to get some like film look and add my own little edits here and there. And I wanted to get some just wildlife photography, just see what that looks like. And it looks fantastic again. You can see the horse here, it just looks really good. Even though it was like a gloomy grey day, I still managed to get some shots out of it that looks really cool and filmy in terms of the effect. You can see the detail on the hair and stuff like that. So again, this is something that I was looking forward to in terms of resolution on the photo, and having that higher resolution means I can punch in onto this before I post if I wanted to. I can add some more edits and stuff like that. Again, this was JPEG, not even RAW. Then I was like, you know what, let me get some product shots as well just to see what that looks like, because I might want to use this if I don't want to carry my big camera with me to get some product shots, which is something that I do quite often. And when we look at this photo, it looks absolutely fantastic with the colors, the detail on the grille, the number plate and so on. I can use different parts of this image if I really wanted to, and I just think it looks great. Then in a studio condition like this one, let's get some sort of like selfie portrait and see what that looks like. Just using the self timer, point the camera at myself to see if that face eye detection stuff works really well in terms of picking me up. I mean, I can't control it myself. I can use my phone, but I didn't use my phone. I wanted to see if the camera can pick my eyes and be able to focus and get some sharp detail here. And you can see there, looks fantastic. This is RAW actually, so I started to switch to RAW here. And you can see the skin tone, everything just looks really good. The warm tone, just as it is in the studio here. And you can go in, I can punch in, you can see my eyes, you can see the detail on my skin there, my hair and everything, just really nice. You got f2.0 aperture. It's not the most milky in terms of like the background blurry effect, but I think with this camera, I don't want that. I just want something that looks really sharp, really clean, and this is doing exactly that. It's achieving that. Then this image here, I know that it might not make sense at the minute, but the reason why I took this shot is because I want to be able to show you the way that you can also punch in later on. If you manage to take a wide shot like this one and you see something in there and you think, actually, I want to go into that detail and post that instead. So this Lamborghini that you can see here, as I zoom in, it means I can still post this shot here. I can crop out everyone else in it and just have that Lamborghini turning on that corner right there, and it still looked pretty good. If I'd taken my time to actually sit there and take that shot a bit more and focus a bit more, I might get even sharper image out of it, but it's just an example of the fact that this is so detailed that you can still punch in and still get some really good shots. And then some more around London, just me getting some landscape shots just to play with the light and stuff as the sun kept coming in and out to see what that looks like. So you can see this one looks good as well. We go across, see how it messes with the foreground and background in terms of shadows and stuff like that. You can edit this further and bring out the shadow if you want to see the people, but here it's more to draw your eyes towards Big Ben that's far ahead in front of us, and again, looks really good. This one is using one of the film simulations. I can't remember which one I used here, but it looks really good again. Just look at the warm tone that it brings out of the building and the bridge as well. I kind of like this one actually, something that I might post later on. Again, I can't fault it. Onto this one, I love the way the shadows and the lights just hit the people here. It looks fantastic. You can see the light ray on the right corner. So this is using one of the film simulation again. But what's great about this is I can scroll in, I can punch in and just focus on this lady here who's looking at her phone. So I can post this picture here because it still gives me a really nice feel and look for what's going on. Looks really cool. This is my attempt to then get some action shots using that rapid burst on there, because actually I didn't talk about it, I did that. So on drive select, so if I just flip that on, on drive select, we can go to high speed stuff, which means I can shoot 8 frames, 11 frames. And then if I want a cropped version, I can go all the way to 20 frames, which is also an improvement from the older version, I believe. So that's the option there. If you really want to shoot some sports stuff, this could probably handle it as well. But my attempt to shoot this guy skating wasn't the best of attempts, because I was too focused on trying to get the guy right at the right time. So I wasn't panning quite well, but this could have been a better shot if I ended up panning and following him like I would normally on my DSLR, bigger camera, and shooting a moving car, for example, and getting my settings right to make sure that's sharp and in focus. But it is capable of doing it if you get the settings right. And then some more shots just showing the colors and shadows and just the way the light looks on there as well, using different film simulation. You can see here the sky just looks really nice and blue, just not too blue, not too oversaturated, and it just blends in well with the brown on the building and stuff like that. The film simulation just looks really good. More great examples here. I'm just going to scroll through some more. So we can see on this one, we got really nice colors, nice and detailed. And then look at Big Ben over there, looking really good. Over here as well, just making use of the contrast in the background and the shadows, just making use of that to focus your eyes on the Big Ben. Looks really good. And then this is like another film simulation, which I quite like. It makes it look like some old school film shots of Chelsea Bridge, or is it Albert Bridge? One of them in London. But yeah, it's there. Yeah, that is Albert Bridge. And then some animal shots. You can see this like monkey here just looking good as well. Again, lots of detail in there. Look at the giraffe. I can punch in and still see the giraffe in detail there. Really cool. More there. Again, I shot this one because I thought, you know what? I'll be able to punch into the animal later on, and I can do exactly that, as you can see there, thanks to that 40 megapixel. Even though I'm taking that from inside of the car in the Safari, I can still use that shot and look like I got closer to the animal more than I actually was. So bring that back out. And that's pretty much it with some of the shots I've taken. I've taken so much shot and it was hard for me to pick which one's what, but those are the ones I thought might demo the capability of the camera. But everyone's style is different, so the kind of shot that you might take will be completely different to the kind of shots that I take, like portrait photography, making use of lights and stuff like that, maybe even in a studio if you want, entirely up to you. But I think as far as the camera goes, they've done a really good job at making this camera a really good lifestyle photography tool, and it just works really well. It's a really great tool, and the pricing is right as well. They haven't gone bonkers and increased the price ridiculously, even though they could if they wanted to, because the previous one sold out, and to buy that now, you're paying extra just to get hold of one. The new one, there's a big backlog of people trying to get hold of it. The one that I ordered for myself, I'm still waiting for that to arrive. So you can see that this is in a pretty much high demand for people who want this camera. So, and it's going to continue to sell out like that. So if you can get hold of one, I'd definitely say pick one up. But let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any questions, drop them there as well. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.